Hello everyone, we welcome you all to this Week Tech Tuesday webinar on building data literacy in your organization. Today's speaker is David Gaffney, who's a senior principal from IPS team. Before we start the session, let's go through some of the housekeeping tips. The webinar is for 1 hour that includes 15 minutes Q&A. You can post your queries in Q&A box which will be answered at the end of the presentation. All participants will be muted during the presentation. The session will be recorded and it will be available on our InfoSupport YouTube channel and Success Portal where you can download the slide deck. Please feel free to submit your suggestion or feedback for this session in the post-webinar survey. The Success Portal is a micro-learning platform that offers free, unlimited learning to all the registered users. This feature-rich platform helps you learn and adopt to Informatica products better. The following are a few important links that you can go over later. This will help you in your product adoption journey with Informatica. Over to you, David. Thank you.
Hello, and thanks for the introduction. So I am David Gaffney, Senior Principal Consultant in the Data Governance Journey at Informatica. Today we're here to talk about data literacy. So what we're going to do today is initially talk about kind of data literacy 101, the definitions, benefits, needs for data literacy, the overall data governance community that we're going to be working with in your organization, so just a representative sample. We'll talk through curriculum ideas for data literacy, so not just Informatica products or data governance tools that you're using, but also tools within your organization. We'll go down a training path with some skill guides and a way to assess your current staff and the journey they're going to need to take to get educated on data literacy. Data delivery methods will be just focusing on how we make that connection with them. So through a course, through job aids, through videos, other things like that. These are going to be the tools that you're going to use to present and interact with your community. And then I'm going to go through more details on some training tracks. So administrators, data stewards, technical stewards, and folks like that, and the specific track they need to follow to get smart on data literacy and be a really good steward for your organization. And then we'll just talk through a quick execution plan. So how to make it happen in your organization and where we go from here. So what is data literacy? We have some good definitions from a number of industry research groups. I like this one from DataCamp. So data literacy is the ability to read, write, analyze, communicate, reason with data. So the key thing is being able to really understand the data, the goals of the data, so that it can drive better business decisions going forward, because that's really the goal of everything we're doing, to be efficient at running a business, but we also to make good decisions going forward based on that data. So it's important because data literacy is the enabler. It brings these business concepts to life, not just the definitions, but also the flow of data, where it came from, how it transforms in its journey, how it gets scrubbed and improved, hopefully, along the way, the whole life cycle. So the programs tend to fail when there's inefficient or corrupted data. So thinking about that transformative journey from raw data, through maybe a data lake into a, transform from a raw into more scrubbed data, and then finally onto a business intelligence report. There's this whole journey that you need to be able to understand, and everyone along the way needs to be smart about data literacy, what it's used for. So there could be inefficient flow, there could be corrupted data along the way. These are the things we need insight into and that are handled by a good data governance program. We want to think about the chain of custody, so being able to see step by step how data moves through the process, and then also who to ask, who to get questions about the data, where we can find out, why things might have gone sideways as you're moving through the process. There may be inadequate understanding of data. So this gets back to business terminology, but the consumers of the data might be wanting to use a particular set of data for a report. And then if you're pushing that into the wrong dashboard, you could end up with, inaccurate conclusions. Now, part of that is also the creators of the data themselves being able to communicate where that's coming from, being able to put appropriate definitions, and being able to trace the life cycle to avoid these misinterpretations. So this is both the creator and the consumer side of the use case. These misinterpretations can lead to bad decision-making, can also, maybe taking that to another level, corrupting it even further by taking it down to another report that is now inaccurate, breaking our whole data trust strategy. And so once that happens, then you really start to get, rogue players who want to just do their own thing, out of service to the company, but they'll find a new data source they do trust and start using it. And then we get, more fragmented usage of data, which is not good either. So we want you to succeed, so we have a curriculum we've developed that I'm going to share today, and an approach for building and executing this program over time that I think is pretty effective. And of course, we are Informatica, we are the product vendor, but at the same time, we're only one small part of the program. So there's a change management component, there's education behind it, there's all of your systems, the cloud vendors you're using, the on-prem systems you're using in cooperation with the Informatica platform. So certainly we'll be referencing our platform as we go through with this, but at the same time, we're just one part of an overall enterprise strategy that we need to support going forward. In the end, a strong literacy program will drive adoption. Weak literacy will block it or fragment it, as discussed before. So it's really important that we get this right. Okay, so going through common roles and responsibilities, these are the people that are part of your governance program. So there's multiple roles you'll have in your organization, and even as a small team, you might have multiple people wearing, different hats in this organization right away. But just going through some of the key roles, so you'll have a leadership role. So typically, part of the governance team could be the DGO in a small organization, or could be a project manager assigned to manage day-to-day activity in the data governance program. Again, could be shared by multiple individuals. You'll have data consumers, and so these folks are going to be many different people in the organization. So it could be as high level as a CDO, could be the CFO who consumes business objects or BI type reports. It could be another business user, someone that develops and works on dashboards. So this might be a pretty large community, and these would also be the folks more interacting directly with like a data marketplace kind of scenario. A business steward is going to be a day-to-day person, so they would be an expert in a particular domain. So finance, HR, logistics, whatever it may be that you're modeling in the data governance platform, this would be the role working on that. And so hands-on, providing a liaison between business subject matter experts and the technical, the data governance team, and again, a very hands-on role. The technical steward then is going to have deep knowledge of the application. So late stages of a data lake, could be a database administrator, could be somebody that administers SAP, something like that. But they have to have deep technical knowledge and some level of business ability as well, because they're going to be working with the business steward. We'll get into what it looks like from an interaction and training perspective, but they'll be working with the business steward, guided by business leadership, and maybe even consulted by data consumers when they have a question about data quality or something like that. And then the administrator, so you'll have multiple roles here. And again, not just in Informatica administrator, but your DBAs that would day-to-day like performance tuning, security tuning on applications, and so on. So they'll have a key role as well, but they also really need to know about governance and how what they're doing applies to the overall model. We have the community. Let's look at the curriculum that each of these folks is going to follow. So at a high level, we're going to have a number of different content components, so that we think should be in a modular approach. So we want to have, there's going to be overlap among these different topic areas. There's going to be some common needs that are addressed for everybody, but then certain areas are going to have a deep dive as well. So look at governance basics. This course is going to be an overview of key concepts, and we'll get into this more later as far as what the specific curriculum is for this, but basic concepts. So platforms, defining the platform, defining just not only in your organization, but also Informatica platform, other tools you may have in place, common activities that people might do, like curating a data set, publishing something to a marketplace, things like that. Also, really understanding the benefits of governance. And then within your organization, there should be sort of like a, Acme Corp 101 about what goals you have as a corporation to be doing data governance. What are we getting out of it as a data steward? What is my benefit to participating in this program? Some of the metrics we're going to follow and so on. So that should all be in data governance basics. And as you'll see, everybody should take that. We'll have a data consumer training. So skills that a consumer will need just to find data, request it from data owners, also provide feedback and some social media back to the owners of the data themselves so that they get an understanding of what's working and what's not. They'll also need the deployment skills and provisioning skills to be able to bring it into their environment. So it might just be getting their hands on an Excel spreadsheet. It might be access to a particular dashboard or some raw data that they need to build their own reports. But the data consumer is going to have to know all of that, day in the life activities, what they're going to need to get out of the data. We'll have a data stewardship curriculum, which should be content creators. So these are folks that are curating data sets. They are understanding the business taxonomy in your organization. They need to know, really high level detail on navigating the platforms that they're going to be using. So Informatica, your own data set management systems, databases, and so on that they're going to manage, because they're going to be the ones curating and building content. They'll review technical content. They'll work closely with the tech stewards, and then they'll also be the ones staging things for publication. And again, early on, this might be 1 or 2 people, but then over time, as you expand into different domains, it could be a community of 30 or 40 people that are all working as data stewards. So we need to have a repeatable, structured curriculum. Technical stewards are going to be, as described in some of the previous slides, like a lower level technical individual that really understands databases and schemas, understands, if it is like a BI reporting scenario, understanding the components that feed into reports, how those were developed, the transformations. And these folks will be working on things like scanners, being able to deploy a scanner and then pull technical data into the governance platform. So very much technically focused, but also will cover data set publishing. So there'll be some overlap there with the data steward curriculum. And then the administrators will have Informatica platform responsibilities like tuning and user management, user onboarding, offboarding, but also understanding core systems and security for the systems that we're scanning. So they may need to be the ones to do some performance tuning to be able to configure ports and those sorts of things, deploy the scanners and agents and so on that are part of the Informatica platform. So user administration, they'll do quite a bit of data source configuration, and as I mentioned, performance tuning and security. Okay, so let's bring it all together. So here's our community again. Over here, we've got our gamer leader. He's got the controls, so he's running the team. We've got our steward up here. We've got our administrator. We've got our technical guy right here, and then these are the data consumers as well. So here's our curriculum off to the right. So just going to kind of animate with the impact that each of these the curriculum points have on the individuals as well. So if we look at the leader here, so they're going to be responsible for a lot in the program. And so they certainly need to have the governance basics course, and they'll probably be part of writing it. They will need to take the business stewardship class, the data consumer class, as well as tech stewardship. Administration can be optional for them, but they would probably want to go through it anyway, just so they're aware of activities and timings and things like that when there is technical requirements. So they'll take those key 4. The business steward will really focus here on they're all going to get data governance basics. So they're going to really want to understand business stewardship, roles and responsibilities, day in the life for their business activities. And if they are going to be publishing data sets, they should probably know what the consumer experience is going to be like. So they'll definitely have to take that class as well, so they get an understanding of what their activities are. Again, optional to do administration or tech stewardship, but again, they're going to be working closely with this tech steward here. So it may be useful to just know day in the life what they're going through, maybe not all the nuts and bolts of it, but just wanting to understand that for their own knowledge. The administrators, again, they need to know data governance basics, why we're doing all of this, and then administration. So probably they'll be segmented by different activities. So you might have one person as just the, Informatica CDGC administrator that would do all the user role and group management activities like that. And you may have an entirely different person responsible for database tuning, scanner configuration, things like that. But all those folks need to be taking the governance basics class as well as administration. And again, we may modularize this to focus on some specific things. Here we've got the data consumer. Again, data governance basics is going to be key to their curriculum, and then consumer activities. So this will be about finding data sets, publishing, consuming data sets, what happens after it's provisioned to you, what happens when there are changes. They'll want to understand the whole life cycle here. These are all optional to the stewardship courses as well as admin, but we may recommend that they also take a business stewardship class just so they see what goes into building the data sets that they are going to use in their day-to-day activity. And then finally, the tech steward here is going to have, of course, data governance basics as before, but then also, they really do want to focus on tech stewardship, but we would also recommend that they take the business stewardship course as well, so they understand what goes into curating content. So when they are working closely with this business steward, they can share information appropriately and just kind of see the impact, when there is a tech change, what's the impact on the business definitions and so on. And they'll probably play a role here with the consumers because needing the consumer training because they're going to be doing the provisioning of the data set. So they'll want to know, maybe there's multiple ways to deliver a data set, whether it's a, raw, comma delimited file or a, prepackaged, data set or a database table extract, something like that. So they'll need to understand those delivery methods. And so that's why they would also take the consumer training. So breaking it down into a lot more detail here, we're going to kind of describe the target skill set. So the last couple of rounds we went through, we looked at, defining the base curriculum, defining the people that are going to be part of it, and then looking at what courses they need to take to get better. So when we do look at where they should be at a skill level, it's helpful to build a table like this where we look at, again, target, these are target numbers. How conversant should they be in each of these activities? And so we've got our lead role here, we've got the consumer role, the stewardship roles here, and then administrator roles as well. So still hitting the same roles, but now we're breaking it down by specific skills. And so you can see all of these skills are going to be now part of the overall curriculum. So the lead, I'll just go role by role here. Now the data governance lead should have a good amount of application knowledge. They should understand the business domains, the glossaries, some knowledge of policy and regulatory, admin and security, and then I'll be very strong in soft skills like training, running design sessions and things like that. We would expect this person to be pretty strong in all of these. And as you read these, what we're going at here is the target. So if one of these folks, like let's say the data consumer, is weak in business domain experience, then we're going to want to run them through that curriculum so they get smart on these, or not really understanding the policies that are part of your day-to-day business activities, then they should get some training on this. And this may be, again, part of the data governance curriculum to get smart on policy and how to manage a glossary, those sorts of things. So the steward roles are pretty similar across here, but we do have like a data collection owner might be maybe more of a manager role and not doing as much day-to-day activities. So they may not need like glossary, data dictionary training, or maybe we put them at a 1 here just so they're familiar with it. Again, this will be flexible and tuned to your organization. So as you see, data owners, data stewards, they have generally the same kind of requirements. Maybe a steward is more responsible for running design sessions with business teams, so they should have pretty strong meeting management, design management, running a whiteboard kind of skills as well. Technical steward, these things probably make sense. Really strong application knowledge, really strong in security, and then just familiarity with glossary, data dictionary activity. The administrators, I'll just build out quickly, would have the governance versus marketplace administrator. They're going to all, of course, need the baseline data governance across the top here. More administration, application knowledge if you're the catalog administrator, that you would be the one maybe configuring things like delivery methods and provisioning and that kind of thing. So again, a little less knowledge here required for business domains and glossaries, and then much stronger requirements here for being a DBA, being an administrator, understanding security profiles, and so on. Now, these again would be kind of additive. On a small team, somebody might be all of these stewards at once. They might be the owner, the collection owner, and the steward. So in that case, you kind of just roll these up and take the highest number and say, that's the skill set that this person needs. And again, somebody might even be both of these at once early on. You might have someone that's the data steward and the tech steward. So again, they're going to need a combination of these skills, and then of course the courses to run with them. Another thing that's going to be behind this is going to be, and I know this is hard to read, but this is just kind of a summary card of, you would build this up for each different role. So you would have, for each of these skills, we'll have what does a 1 mean, what does a 4 mean across these skill sets. So like, let's say for regulatory policy, you might have a general awareness as a 1, and a 4 would be somebody that's really smart about CCPA, CPRA. If you're a consumer products or food products company, you might have very strong FDA type requirements. If you're in the accounting group, GAAP requirements. So it'll be important to define what these 1s and 4s mean, so that we can help tune the curriculum appropriately. And there will be, as indicated here, some Informatica components as well as your core business activities that are going to be supported by that as well. Okay, so let's talk about delivery methods. And some of this might be just training 101 for folks that already work in corporate training, but I did want to go through these because it's important when we're doing system training and those sorts of things that we have some good options for users. So a job aid, which we have indicated by the little checkbox here, is step-by-step guide with common tasks, and usually this is run by yourself. So this is maybe a companion PDF or video that sits next to you as you do your common tasks. And so usually with clicks, text entry, screenshots from the Acme, from your environment, might be a PDF, it might be an HTML pop-up similar to the walkthroughs in Axon. And so the idea is that this is a quick reference that you've got, can always have up in the background as you're doing your common tasks. And over time, you'll get comfortable with what you're doing and you won't really need this as much, but it's important to make these early on. And usually it's when you're into implementations. So you've got your system, you've got the branding, you've got your content and labeling on it. So that way that it speaks more closely to a day in the life steward activity. We'll also have videos. And so similar to what you would be doing with a webinar or something like that, a narrated screen capture showing common tasks. So you do want to keep these under 5 minutes so that it's not too long for an individual. So it might just be, creating a business glossary or creating a domain, subdomain hierarchy, something like that, where it's just a quick set of clicks, 2-3 minutes, so you can get a good understanding of the activity, go back and replay, rewind, and so on. So these will be important too, and things that you'll want to build again once you've got the environment in place. You do want this to be personalized to your environment. You'll certainly have manuals, and so More typical standalone PDF document, data governance playbook, something like that, where you would have a standard table of contents where you would probably just zoom into a couple topics and just get the idea and then get out again. So again, this could be created by your organization. It could also be, playbook from Informatica or another vendor. But again, you'll want to have these in a central location so people can use it and share it appropriately. And then Informatica University, these would be more our structured classes. So doing, data steward basics, data governance basics, content curation, courses like that. And these are usually done by, in a group format, interactive over a couple of days. And so, whether you do it on site or just, sign up for an online course, same idea, but these are useful because typically you'll have like a group of stewards at once, and, the interaction you get among the students and the teacher as well help to really guide this. And so this is often something you'll have, built in as you go forward. We'll want to have, stewards and admins go through this, and then maybe the next round, they can teach it as well, sort of a teach to fish scenario. The Success Portal from Informatica is also quite a good resource for that as well. So we've got, a lot of content there. So you'll have a whole set of all of these that apply to different courses. So to go through data governance basics, and then this is a framework that we've got. So, getting into the courses themselves. So again, this is the one everybody takes. So it's probably the most important. I'll break down some of the topics here just so you can see what we're doing. And all of these I'll just build out. We'll have the collateral for these is probably going to be Informatica University and Success Portal content, as well as videos that you do in your own environment or have your governance leads walking through these. And so some of the key concepts we'll have is, what is governance? What is stewardship? Nomenclature, acronyms about the platform, and then concepts. Again, this is for everybody, so it's not necessarily a technical drill down, but more familiarity on what's a domain, what does profiling mean, understanding taxonomies and glossaries, what does lineage mean, concepts of a data marketplace, and then day in the life common activities that people will have for enrichment, for capturing metrics, refreshing the data models, and then also looking at some of the benefits. And so this is the two right ones here are more looking at, what's in it for me as a data steward, a data consumer, so that I'm getting the most out of the program. So we'll talk through, quality, talk through privacy considerations and requirements, talk through, policy considerations, the benefits it's giving us from context, the transparency to, visibility of data lineage end to end, putting the right data in the right hands of folks, as well as the insight. And then here we'll have very customized to you. You would want to build out governance at your corporation, Acme in this case. So what are the use cases we're supporting? What's our definition of success? Very personalized here, teams and roles in the RACI for your organization. So who are the leaders? Who are the go-to people for questions? What kind of time am I going to need as a data steward versus a consumer? And then what are the training and support options required for me? And so they'll want to have all of this taken as an early on as you bring stewards on, so they understand what's going to be required for them. Why should they be helping us with this overall program? And then again, once they're, sort of brought on board, what are these key activities that they're going to be required to do over time? And this is all about change management. It's all about getting people bought into the program and ready to help us. Okay, now we're going to go through the other 4 training tracks just to give a sense of what would typically be in some of these. And you'll certainly want to customize these to your own consumer needs and targets of your environment. So for the data consumer, these are the folks that are browsing data, using curated data for their own consumption, for building BI reports, those sorts of things. Kind of things they're going to need to know are navigation and searching, how to request data, how to run the checkout process and manage once it's provisioned to them. And then once you've got it, doing some of the social media type collaboration related to using that data so they can let other people know if it's high quality and those sorts of things. So for each of these, you would have subset activities, which would all have job aids and videos built behind them. So step by step, how to navigate through Marketplace to find a particular data set that's useful to you, how to check it out, and then things like data that you've subscribed to, making sure that it's current, providing ratings and reviews to the owners of that data, and so on. So good data consumer track for them to follow. And again, once you've got the videos, the job aids and so on, maybe a day or so of training for them. And then they would, in the background, have, potentially do a university course or just use the manuals going forward so that they can be productive in their job. So for the data stewards and data owners, they'll have a broad set of tasks that they're going to do day to day in order to maintain the model going forward. So they'll certainly need to understand the facets that make up our model, whether it is Axon or cloud data governance and catalog going forward. The onboarding activities of tying technical sources to business definitions is going to be key. The curation, fine-tuning those definitions, how you document data sets for staging them to publish. So that's going to be a key set of tasks. Managing lineage, managing impact maps, which are a key component as well. And so you see some of the subset activities here. And each one of these, again, is going to be captured in a job aid in a video. So, business glossary best practices, could be a 3-4 minute video, understanding all the facets in the model. So when to use policy, when to use a business process, onboarding activities. So some of the, troubleshooting that you might do as you bring in new data sources, how do you refine and update them going forward, the curation activities and so on. So these are going to be very important. And again, 3 to 4 minute videos for that you capture, build out a job aid as well, because again, the first group through this, your pilot group, is going to learn and refine the training as we go. And then as you roll on more domains, more business stewards into the process, we want to make it repeatable going forward. So again, behind all of this, you're going to have course material that you can use, as well as reference manuals, so that we get really solid about building these. And again, these are modules. So what we'd like to be able to do is, maybe if someone just needs a refresher on curation activities, or someone needs a refresher on how to publish to the marketplace, you would have this module right here that you could refer them to, versus maybe having them go through the same full course again. For the technical stewards, now primarily we've been talking about data governance here. So meaning the metadata catalog, the data governance, the marketplace. But you could also, certainly use the same curriculum for master data management, for data integration, cloud integration, and other things. And in those cases, you would still have a business steward type activity, but you may expand the technical tracks so that we're covering other key technologies that may be in place in your organization. So from a governance standpoint, you would have things around how to identify the key systems, how to scan those systems. These will be much more technical around ports and pathways and security models to be able to engage the secure agents against particular data sources. You'll also have this curation activity that we had in the data steward, onboarding activities. The lineage, again, is going to be a similar topic to what we had in the data owner, data steward track, as well as publishing. So this publishing track will actually be the same kind of thing, but additionally adding in technical owner assignment, delivery methods, and so on. So there's going to be some repeats here that you'll have between the different tasks, and then maybe, as I mentioned before, kind of a drill down into specific deep technical tasks that the steward might do versus the data owner. Same concept here, though, is, given that early on, you might have a smaller governance team, a smaller set of platform users. Your technical stewards and your data stewards might be the same person, the same resource early on. And then later we split out these activities. Again, all of these are going to have job aids and videos to them. As I mentioned before, we could do, in some cases we've done like the video at this level, where we have the whole like scanning concept all at once. In other cases, you might want to chunk it up by, configuration, troubleshooting, security concerns, those sorts of things, and break it up file by file with your videos. But that's kind of up to, what's going to be most useful in your organization. But in either case, this is all kind of your checklist of activities, different topics you're going to cover as you build these out. And then once again, supported by our Informatica University training, as well as reference materials. So one more track, administration. So these would be, common things that you would expect. The administrators are going to manage users and groups, adding and removing people, changing their group permissions and so on, so they have access to the right modules within the IDMC and cloud data governance. Configuring data sources, again, probably working closely with the technical stewards on these so that we make sure we've got the right data aligned and the security is appropriate and those sorts of things. We do have a lot of dashboarding capability, and so you'll probably want to build out common dashboards and widgets that our users can share so that they all have the same reading on the kind of metrics that we're using to manage. So whether that's governance type metrics, like how many systems are onboarded, how many fields were curated, those sorts of things, as well as relevance to particular KPIs that you're supporting in your business use case. Here we would have, very much, technically oriented tuning and log management. So if, we do need to expand and, produce more content, you may have, some tuning activities that you need to do to support scanners and maybe bringing in, thousands and, millions of rows instead of thousands and those sorts of things. So that'll be tuning, that'll be log management, troubleshooting, refresh activities, and then marketplace administration, which will be managing the marketplace, making sure that we've got the right categories and individuals assigned to those as well. So the refresh activity is around making sure that, as you do update data lakes and your raw data sources, that you are refreshing that data on a regular basis. So again, these will be supported by your job aids, by your videos, making sure that you're aligned with, in this case, like your identity management strategy as well. So the administrators, you might have 7 or 8 of these roles where you have somebody that's managing the IDMC. In other cases, somebody that's managing the data lake, somebody that's your database administrator over other sources, or your business intelligence tools. So you could have a number of roles involved here, a number of individuals involved here, all sharing these tasks going forward. And again, supported by reference materials, Informatica University, but also guides for the platform that you're on. So whatever your cloud provider may be, you're certainly going to have administrators as well focused on that. They may even have their own training track that they follow to make sure that we're all in sync. Okay, so now we're going to bring it all together in the full execution plan so you can see how to build all of this in your own organization. So initially what we're going to do is we've kind of hinted at some of these through the process, but you'll want to assess the needs that you have for your organization. And so looking at the technologies you're going to implement, as well as the skills of your current team, we want to look at what those, kind of what those bubbles should be as far as strength that we're going to need to have across different areas, technology versus business governance and so on. We'll want to look at the resources you have already. So the people resources, so knowing like the first, block of people that are going to be part of the implementation. Also look at existing courses you might have as well. So you might have some baseline data governance content already. You might have content training for particular organizations or for particular technologies you're already using, like data lakes or your cloud providers or so on. So some of these you might have a head start on. You might not need to develop everything from scratch, but this is where you'll start to build those assets. So looking at the skill targets that we're going to have, and then the training needs that you'll have as well. And so those 5 layouts that I just went through for different training content, we'll want to see where we're at on each of those, and again, what you've got and what you need to develop net new. Through this process, you definitely want to be engaging your change management resources, because as you are recruiting people to be part of this new governance initiative, they'll want to know what change to expect, day in the life, what are, 5 more hours a week doing what, those sorts of things. So change management teams will be, very skilled in that, the right communication plan, making sure that they're informed all the way along, so that by the time it gets here, they're excited about it and not feeling like it's something imposed on them. Looking at the stewards, so we've kind of, we'll look here as far as maybe some of the people that we're going to engage, but this one we're going to repeat often. So we'll look at the stewards that are going to come into a particular domain and where they're at training wise. So they'll probably end up having a custom training plan based on those targets. Some people will be way ahead of the curve and will require just some familiarity with the new product set. In other cases, people will be starting at a baseline and need to get more educated on them. So I'd say it's repeatable, because as a domain, as you bring in first HR and then supply chain and then sales and so on, you'll have different people with different skill sets. You want to run the training. So again, think about this not only in the first round in a pilot, but also going forward. Run the training, implement your use cases. You'll be capturing assets as you build this as well. So apply the training immediately if possible, if we can have sort of real-time conduct of the training. But this is where you'll actually be running the training sets, and then building here. When I talk about those job aids, checklists, and those sorts of things, videos, as you're running the process of building out your governance model, you'll be using screenshots there. The first movers will probably do some of the screenshot captures and the videos, so that people will have reusable assets going forward. So this may be an initial lift for the first round, but then after that, a little lighter. You might eventually develop some brand new job aids for different content types that you're bringing in or other activities going forward. But this will be happening through that pilot process. And then finally, any refinements. So we're going to go through and build out new content. We'll be fine tuning some things. If people try the training and find it doesn't work in a particular way, we'll go back and change that. We may identify completely new courses and topics we didn't think about that will add to the model as well. We want to optimize the training and so on. So we'll just make sure that we're ready for the next batch of stewards to come in, so that they've got a good set of content to use going forward. So certainly there's a lot more going on as far as technology implementation and tuning and some of those other things, but this flow here is really focused on the training assets, communication plan, and getting the team engaged going forward. Okay, so with that, we will have a Q&A session. So on our panel, we have Mary Wilson and Tara Smith. So we'll now open it up for questions.
All right, we've reached the Q&A portion of our session. Please submit any questions in the Ask the Question box for our experts, and they will answer them for you. Thank you. David?
Okay, sure, thanks. So yeah, a couple questions have come in. I wanted to just jump on these real fast, and please put in any others into the chat window as well, and we can get to them. If we can't answer it today, we'll certainly get back to you as well for something we get an extra resource for. So One question was around the OCM interaction, and so I did want to bring that up. I should be able to switch slides here. There we go. Okay, so for the execution plan, one question that we had was around getting the change management engaged, and so I'm just building this out real fast. And it is critical to do this pretty early, because even if you've got, like on this call, new folks just learning about Informatica or about data governance, change management has sort of already started now. So, people want to understand what's expected of them. You want to get them to embrace the change and not feel like something is being imposed on them. So I would say, even move up, that step 3, build a communication plan earlier in the process, just so people have a good expectation of what they need. And also their managers as well, so they know what kind of time commitment their resources are going to need to be part of the program. Second question came in related to maturity. So we do have, with our advisory group, we do a data governance as well as overall data management maturity evaluation that we'd be happy to walk you through, and it is around awareness, capabilities, sponsorship at a particular level in the organization, and so on. And so we don't have a literacy maturity on its own, but it is definitely baked into the overall organizational maturity.
Yeah, so David, this is Mary, to just build on that, everything that David said. So we do have a change management. So think about, as David said in the beginning, data literacy being a large, important piece of that. But we do have a change management assessment that we have just put together that we'd be happy to share. It's a little bit broader than literacy, but literacy is a key component of it, to David's point.
Okay, so for another couple questions on the training. And so the plans that we went through here, so certainly there are a lot of structured courses and job aid type things on the Success Portal, as well as Informatica University, that will do, sort of the full, data steward, data collection owner, technical steward, those sorts of trainings. But a lot of what we showed as far as each of these tracks end up being a combination of those, as well as custom training within your environment. And so, some of these will be developed as part of your own training, your own rollout plan going forward, versus something that's canned because it would want to be specific to your environment. As far as we have an additional question on CDGC training. So the learning paths, we were setting those up for CDGC and the Success Portal as well. And so we can certainly connect you with one of our Informatica University reps to maybe talk about that a little more detail, because there are training paths you can follow on the Success Portal that go through curation and sort of these day in the life type activities, as well as the more structured training. But again, a lot of it is going to be wrapped in, I would say, probably more custom content that's recorded and built within your environment.
And then I would add one additional comment, if I may, David. And there's a lot of information here, a lot of great information here. But just like when you start to build out anything that's new in any organization, it can quickly become overwhelming. My suggestion and what we see is to be the most effective method of implementation, whether it's data management, data governance, literacy, change management, is to start small and figure out where your critical areas are and focus there, and then start to build out. There's a couple things that becomes a little bit more manageable that way. You're addressing the most immediate problems first. You're also building advocacy and success within your program. And so then it becomes a little bit more interesting to some. People lose their fear of the unknown, which is quite common. So a lot of this is really finesse. It's a little bit different than the technical side, if you will, because that is what it is. And this is how you implement any sort of a platform, where more so with change management, data literacy and all, it's really about winning the hearts and minds of people. And driving that fear of the unknown out of the organization. And what's the immediate impact to me? Immediately, people start to think, oh, they're doing all this. Am I going to lose my job? What if I don't have the right skills? Or if I can't learn the right skills? Things like that. So it's just best to start small with a targeted audience and then build from there.
Sorry, a couple more questions coming in.
I'm looking to it. Okay. Okay, so one is the assessment.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going ahead to you for the assessment for the data literacy program.
Yeah, so it is, going back to our, sorry for the slide juggling. If we go back here to this assessment guide, so these things, and building out the bubbles real fast, are your aspirational targets. And so as you look to recruit folks from your team into these roles, you want to build out that sort of skill card defining what does a 1 mean versus what does a 4 mean. And you may have to do like an individual self-assessment on those. How do you understand what a data taxonomy is? Do you understand data lineage in a technical context and those sorts of things? So we'd probably want to build, a bit of a survey related to those, but the prerequisite for that would be kind of initially defining what 1, 2, 3, and 4 mean across these different skill sets, and then pushing that self-assessment to the team as they're onboarded, and then we can figure out if a particular data steward does not really have a background in taxonomy or data management, then we can set up a series of courses, whether that's Informatica U or the job aids or those sorts of things. So the initial take is to just set the targets, and then we'll have to work with individuals as they get onboarded to see where they're at across these. There was a question on accessibility as far as a transcription of this, and so I would maybe defer to the webinar team. I don't know, do you run a transcription on these presentations?
We don't have a transcription, but there will be a replay that you should be able to access in the Informatica Success portal. There's a link in the related content section to the portal, and the on-demand version of this webinar will be available within 24 hours. If there's an accessibility question, if you need a transcript, please feel free to reach out, and we will definitely make sure that is available.
And then there's a question about the broader change management information and that material that's related to this material. There is an upcoming Tech Tuesday, but it's not until October. If you would like to reach out to me directly, I'd be happy to share that information with you and talk with you about it. I don't see anything additional coming in.
Sure, yeah, so it looks like there aren't any more questions, but definitely reach out to us after the fact as well if you've come up with anything else. If you are an existing Informatica customer, you can always reach out to your CSM, your customer success rep, as well as your account manager to get in touch with us, and we'd be happy to set up a one-on-one chat related to this topic. So again, I hope this was useful today, and we appreciate you all attending.
Thanks, everyone. Please also remember to complete the survey. And again, just a reminder, this session and all of our Tech Tuesday sessions are available on the Informatica Success portal. Thank you, David. Thank you, Mary. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.